Have you ever continued watching a terrible movie just because you had already watched half of it? Have you ever kept paying for a subscription because you had already spent so much money on it? Or stayed with a project, course, job, or business idea even though you knew it was no longer working? You might tell yourself, I have already spent too much to stop now. But that sentence can lead you into an even bigger mistake. This is called the sunk cost fallacy. Let's understand it through a simple story. Imagine a man named Ravi. Ravi pays $500 for an online course. At first, he's excited. He believes the course will help him start a new career. But after several weeks, Ravi realizes that the lessons are outdated, the teacher does not explain things clearly, and most importantly, Ravi no longer wants to work in that field. Every evening, Ravi opens the course and forces himself to continue. He's tired, he's bored, and he's missing opportunities to learn something more useful. So why does he keep going? Because Ravi thinks, I already paid $500. If I stop now, that money will be wasted. But here is the important point. The $500 is already gone. Ravi will not get it back by completing the course. Whether he continues or stops, the money has already been spent. The only thing Ravi can still control is what happens next. If he continues, he may also lose another 50 hours. That is the sunk cost fallacy. A sunk cost is something you have already spent and cannot recover. It could be money, it could be time, it could be effort, it could even be emotional energy. The fallacy happens when that past investment controls your next decision, even though continuing is no longer the best option. In simple words, you keep making a bad decision because you do not want to admit that the earlier decision was a mistake. Where did this idea come from? The basic idea began in economics. Traditional economic thinking says that past costs should not control future decisions. Why? Because the past cannot be changed. A good decision should compare the future costs with the future benefits. But researchers noticed that real people did not always behave this way. In 1976, researcher Barry Staw studied something called escalation of commitment. He found that when people were responsible for an earlier decision, negative results could sometimes make them invest even more. Instead of changing direction, they tried harder to defend the original decision. Stopping would mean admitting that they had been wrong. In 1980, economist Richard Thaler discussed how consumers often failed to ignore sunk costs. His work helped connect psychology with economics and showed that human decisions are not always as logical as traditional economic models assume. Then, in 1985, psychologists Hal Arkus and Catherine Bloomer published an influential paper called The Psychology of Sunk Cost. They described the sunk cost effect as our tendency to continue something after investing money, effort, or time, even when that investment should not influence the next decision. In one study, people who paid more for theater season tickets attended more performances during the following months. It appeared that paying more created a stronger feeling that they had to use the tickets. The idea also became popularly known as the Concorde fallacy. Concorde was a supersonic passenger aircraft developed by Britain and France. The project became extremely expensive, and its commercial future became increasingly uncertain, yet the two governments continued supporting it. The aircraft became a famous symbol of continuing a project partly because so much had already been invested. Of course, the real Concorde decision also involved politics, international agreements, technology, and national pride, but it became a powerful example of the sunk cost problem. Why does our brain do this? Because stopping feels painful. When we stop, we may have to admit, I wasted my money. I chose the wrong course. I spent years on the wrong career. My business idea did not work. I should have made a different decision. That creates discomfort. So instead of accepting the loss, we try to rescue the original investment. We invest more money, more time, more effort, and sometimes more years. We tell ourselves maybe it will improve. I've come too far to stop. One more investment might fix everything. But sometimes continuing does not rescue the original investment. It only increases the total loss. Imagine that you are walking toward a restaurant. After walking for 30 minutes, you discover that you have been traveling in the wrong direction. Would you continue walking because you have already walked so far? Of course not. The distance you already walked cannot be recovered. The smart choice is to turn around. But in our careers, relationships, projects, and businesses, turning around feels much harder. Everyday examples. Imagine buying a ticket for a movie. After 40 minutes, you realize that the movie is terrible. You are uncomfortable, tired, and no longer enjoying yourself. But you stay because you paid for the ticket. The ticket money is gone whether you stay or leave. The real decision is about the next hour. Would you rather spend it watching a bad movie or doing something you enjoy? Here is another example. Imagine a small business owner named Maria. Maria launches a new food product. She spends $10,000 developing it, but customers do not like it. Sales are low, reviews are poor. Maria's team suggests testing a different product, but Maria says, "We cannot stop. We have already spent $10,000. So she spends another $5,000 on advertising. Sales remain low. Then she spends more money changing the packaging. Nothing improves. Maria is no longer asking, is this product likely to succeed? She's asking, how can I prove that my original decision was correct? Those are two very different questions. The first question protects the future. The second question protects the ego. The common mistake. The common mistake is asking, how much have I already invested? That question pulls your mind towards the past. A better question is, from this moment forward, what choice gives me the best result? Imagine that you had not spent any money, time, or effort yet. Knowing everything you know today, would you still choose this project? Would you still buy this product? Would you still take this course? Would you still follow this strategy? If the answer is no, your past investment may be trapping you. A simple 3-question framework. When you feel stuck, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what has already been spent and cannot be recovered? Be honest about the money, time, or effort that is already gone. Second, what will continuing cost me? Think about future money, future time, stress, energy, and missed opportunities. Third, if I were making this decision for the first time today, what would I choose? This question removes the emotional weight of the past. It helps you see the decision more clearly. You can also imagine that a friend is facing the same problem. What advice would you give them? We are often more logical when judging someone else's situation because our own pride is not involved. But does this mean we should quit everything difficult? No, this is where people can misunderstand the sunk cost fallacy. Not every difficult project should be abandoned. A business may need time to grow. A valuable skill may take years to develop. A relationship may require patience and honest communication. A difficult situation is not automatically a bad situation. The important question is why you are continuing. Are you continuing because there is good evidence that the future will improve, or are you continuing only because you have already invested so much? There is a difference between healthy persistence and blind persistence. Healthy persistence says this is difficult, but the evidence shows that continuing is still worthwhile. Blind persistence says this is clearly not working, but I cannot stop because I have already invested too much. The better way to think. Your past investment does not need to become meaningless just because you change direction. A failed business can teach you about customers. A wrong career can teach you valuable skills. A bad course can show you what you do not want. An unsuccessful project can give you experience. Changing direction does not erase what you learned. Sometimes quitting is not failure. Sometimes quitting is simply refusing to make the loss bigger. The lesson is simple. Do not ask, how can I recover everything I already lost? Ask, what is the smartest use of what I still have? You cannot change yesterday's cost, but you can protect tomorrow's time, money, and energy. The past should give you information. It should not control your future. So the next time you hear yourself say, I have already come too far to stop, pause and ask, if I were starting today, would I still choose this? That one question may save you from throwing more time, money, and energy into a decision that no longer deserves it.